Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, and welcome to another episode of the Tic Toc Diner. It's going to be an interesting one today. We're going to fill you up with a lot of carrier perspective from a rather outspoken individual that y'all know and love if you're out there on LinkedIn. Stay tuned.
For the Freight Fraud Task Force, welcome to the Tic Toc Diner Podcast, where we serve up freight fraud with a side of prevention. Grab a menu and have a seat. Your server will be right with you. Here is your head chef and host, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera.
Oh yeah, I love a little soft jazz in the morning. Folks, again, welcome to the show. And our guest today is CDL Shorty. You all probably seen his stuff out there on LinkedIn. You want to talk about an advocate for truckers? This is the guy. Shorty, how the hell you been, man? You're muted, by the way.
I'm doing good, my friend. I'm doing good, my friend. Sorry about that, but I'm doing good. How are you doing? And thank you for allowing me to join your show.
Oh, it's good to have you. I love getting perspectives from all across the industry on the different issues of the day, particularly fraud. But frankly, dude, anything that we need to talk about, I am all for. I mean, you see some of the stuff that I've been posting about lately, accountability by the brokers, thanks to the Montgomery decision. I've actually in the middle of a tirade that I have been writing for the last day and a half about reputation management, freight guards, highway reports, things like that. And I'm still trying to fine tune it because I don't want to get sued by somebody along the way, because some of the people that are involved in those things are very litigious. So I have to mind my P's and Q's. But dude, every day is a holiday. When you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And dealing in the business of fighting fraud, man, I am happy as a clam. But, it's not about me. It's about you. What is it that you are passionate about? What is it that gets you out of bed every day?
Oh, man, thank you. Well, for me, CDL training is something I'm very passionate about. I definitely hold a strong, true knowledge of great wealth, but I really have to give all the glory, to God, number one, but also to the industry. The industry has definitely granted me each and every opportunity to really just get better each and every day, to hone in on my craft each and every day. So I look forward to CDL training, whether it be with students at the school setting, or whether it be with carriers or truck drivers or brokers or freight forwarders, no matter who it is, freight fraud task force. So I mean, just, training is really what gets me out of bed and gets my juices pumping.
Well, how did you get here? What's your story?
Well, my story, number one, is I got my CDL in 2015, and I became a trucker's advocate in 2021, if you will. That's when my CDL teaching career kind of took off, because I had a heart attack behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler in 2020. So I had to take a year out the industry. They gave me a pacemaker. And right before I was about to get back out on the road trucking again, I just tried my hand at being a CDL instructor, and I really fell in love with it.
I can certainly understand that. I know back early in my career, when I was in the military, I actually went to the logistics schoolhouse for the Air Force and was an instructor for 3 years. Loved it. Absolutely loved that job. Probably more than any other job I had when I was active duty. So I get it. And that's one of the things that the task force is built on, as a foundation of education. So I'm in the process of writing multiple webinars right now pertaining to fraud. So trust me, man, the love of passing on your knowledge is something I get. But oh my gosh, dude, you can't be a day over 30. You had a heart attack? Holy Moses.
I just turned 35, literally just turned 35. But yes, I had a heart attack. I was born with irregular heartbeat, some heart issues. But as well as, to hold myself accountable, I had high blood pressure on the road. I got a case of pneumonia when I was on the road that really kind of took me out. But also, just living a truck driver's lifestyle, unhealthy eating, no exercise. And, ultimately that's what got me.
Man, I can certainly appreciate that. When I had my box truck company, I wasn't over the road often. I'm more did a lot of local residential deliveries. But when one of my over the road drivers went on vacation because I wanted to keep my trucks moving, I would fly out to wherever they were when they shut down, take over the truck, run it around for a week, then bring it back to them. So I got to understand what it is that my over the road drivers went through. Even though I didn't spend 3-4 weeks at a time over the road, I did get a feel for it. So I have a great deal of respect for what goes on sitting in that driver's seat all day long, day in, day out. It changed me. It really changed me. My wife thinks I drive like a grandpa now. Yeah, because I got so defensive about how I drove when I was driving a truck, and that carried into how I drive my little four-wheeler now. And my wife is like, you're the slowest person out here. You want to pick it up a little bit? Well, I'm pacing the guy in front of me just fine. We're good. Plenty of following space. I got an exit out here off to my left. If something goes wrong, I've got ways to dodge. I'm fine where I am. And she's like, come on, this car's got a lot of get up and go. Step on it. Come on. Yeah. I'm not late for anything. Relax. We got our whole lives together. We've been together 26 years. We're fine.
Right.
I've seen too much go wrong on all sides of this industry. When people rush, I've seen too much go wrong when people don't take care of themselves. And I'm glad that you had the opportunity to recover from that, because we hear too many horror stories about those who don't recover and frankly wind up taking out an entire family with them when they go. And it's absolutely tragic that drivers are put in that situation. But unfortunately, we put drivers in that situation every single day.
Right.
And I wish there was a better way to control that. Now, I know when I went to go and get my med cert renewed, I was refused because I have sleep apnea. And until that was under control, they did not want to give me my doctor didn't want to give me a certificate. So that took me out of a truck permanently. And that's around the time that I gave up my company and got into dispatching. But let's talk about your love of education here real quick. As you go into an education setting, whether that be in a classroom, sitting in a truck, what is the very first thing you like to teach off of your experience to a new student?
Oh, that's a good question. The very first thing I like to teach to a new student is safety. Safety, number one. The second thing I like to teach to a student is just, knowing and upping your education. Just keeping your eyes out and just knowing you want to know everything you want to know, or everything that you can about the truck and the trailer, what it can do, how it can make you more money, how it can get you home. I really emphasize, don't just be a quote unquote steering wheel holder these days. Let's get back to old school trucking where we carry tools with us and, work on something minor that could get us off of the side of the freeway or that could get us home. So I really double down on maintenance. I double down on safety, but as well as home time. Home time is very, very important to a trucker. So I always, emphasize, hey, make sure you get your home time, whether you're going with a company or whether you're going to be an independent owner operator, get your own authority or a lease purchase owner operator. Make sure you have that perfect work-life balance.
As you go through the education piece, you were talking about owner operators and leasing. We see so many scams out there, from the lease to own scams. We see the people not following the lease regulations correctly, leading to double brokering accusations. What is it that you go to teach your students when it comes to leasing?
Well, when it comes to leasing, I teach them things to look out for. I teach them things to really red flags. What are the red flags of leasing out there? If you're getting a truck with zero money down and you just got your CDL, 9 times out of 10, that's really not going to be a good lease for you at that time, especially with your education being at a bare minimum, entry level as well. I also teach if they're going to lease, know the difference between rate per mile and cost per mile, because when you're a company driver, they do cents per mile. But when you're a lease owner operator, per se, you need to start dealing with cost per mile as well to really maximize your profit. But also, I teach them to look out for the per diem that some of these companies do out here, to look out for just a lot of things that a company would do to really kind of take advantage of you leasing. Like there's one company out there, a big company out of Springfield, Missouri. I won't say their name, but they have lease purchase. They have I just found out that they have leases where you can do a 6-month lease, you can do a year lease, and then at the end of that, you can either do away with the truck and become a company driver, or you can do lease purchase. So they got all kind of things. I teach the students about their escrow as well, and how some companies will leverage that against them, their maintenance, their fuel costs, IFTA, things like that. So those are some of the educational pieces that I really try to hone in on the new students that I get in contact with.
As you go down that list, I'm picturing 49 CFR 376.12 in my head.
Yes.
Okay. And you basically just went right down that freaking list. And I love it. I love that, because it's one of the things that I try to preach a lot, particularly when we're seeing a lot of carriers, particularly over the last 2 years, have come off the road because it was so expensive to manage your own company. And then they come across on Facebook and YouTube these different carriers that are offering lease on opportunity for them, so that they can put their truck to work, they can keep driving and try to earn. But oh my God, how predatory some of these leases have become, these lease opportunities, and then how they skirt the rules to make it sound like it's a good deal, when in actuality it's a horrible one for the drivers. Now, I'm focused on this one individual that I personally have been chasing for 2 years now. Okay. This 28-year-old snot-nosed brat out of Dallas, Texas. I have been chasing this guy forever. He has had, that I know of, 9 different authorities over a 3-year period, 9 of them. And he hires on hotshot drivers, brand new to the industry. He will run them for a couple of weeks, because after a couple of weeks, you tend to see, you're not going to get paid for the first couple of weeks. You usually put a week in the hole, and then at the end of the second week, you finally start getting some money coming in.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the second week, there was clearly a connection problem between us and your bank. You can send me your account information again. We'll get you taken care of on Monday, and whatever little excuses they can. And then by midweek, when the driver's finally starting to figure out these guys are starting to pull my leg, then he cuts off the fuel card and he leaves them stranded where they are. Okay. So then they're like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this shit. I quit. Appropriate response.
Yeah.
And then he says, and then he finally answers the phone and says, "Oh, you quit? Oh, thank you very much. With the $10,000 contract termination that you signed, I'm keeping all your money. Bye."
Really?
That we know of, there are 70 different victims that we know of.
Wow.
Who are all owed upwards of anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 in revenue from this guy.
Wow.
Okay. So that we know of. So I guess it was about a year and a half ago. Was it a year and a half? Yeah, about a year and a half ago. We had been hitting this guy really hard on our show. And he posted a 15-minute video attacking us for going after him the way we were. And he said, I'm not stealing any money from anybody. And then 30 seconds later, he sits there and says, I've made hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million in the last year off of stupid drivers. And I'm like, thank you. You just admitted.
Right.
You just freaking admitted it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the problem is, and I've talked to I don't know how many different DAs in Texas about this, is that in that statement, he admits that he's been predatory against these guys. Is it illegal? His contract allows him to do certain things because all these things are embedded throughout his contract. Okay. So he's winning the legal war there. Here's where he totally screws himself. He sits there and says, okay, fine. So you're going to get me shut down? You go right ahead. Get me shut down. I got 3 more DOT numbers in my back pocket ready to go. Boom. Thank you so much. That's 3 counts of fraud against the U.S. government that you just admitted to right then and there. And I saved the damn video before he was able to pull it back off of YouTube. I saved it and I've sent it over to investigators at FMCSA. They started an investigation, but you remember what happened in January of last year? Doge came around and slashed the crap out of the federal government, including the investigator corps at FMCSA. So all investigations that were going on at the time got tabled. It is still on the back burner. I'm trying to get it back operational again so I can get this guy finally taken into custody and tried for his crimes, because these drivers who are out thousands of dollars, it cost them their trucks. A couple of them, it cost them their homes.
Right.
And there's zero remorse from this guy whatsoever. I want to see this guy get put away. I want to see this guy get put away in a big way. This is my Moby Dick.
Yes.
This is my Moby Dick.
Right.
And FMCSA has already told me whenever they go to serve a warrant against this guy, I'm going to know about it ahead of time so I can be in Dallas and record it to give justice to this guy's victims.
Yeah. And we would love that, because it's people like him that really gives people like you or other brokers a bad name,
Absolutely. This guy is the biggest POS I've ever come across, and he's doing all the same things that your overseas scammers are doing. Yeah. He's doctoring rate confirmations. So drivers think they're getting less than they really should be getting. He's not giving them any the rate confirmations in some cases. They're doing all the fun little tricks that scammers like to do to these lease-on drivers. Wow. But the only thing he hasn't done yet that I'm aware of is he hasn't sat there and told them, "Oh no, don't change the name on the side of your truck." He hasn't done that scam yet. But I mean, what I don't think a lot of new drivers understand is when they lease onto a carrier, that carrier provides your insurance.
Yes.
You have to carry your own bobtail and your own garage insurance and stuff like that. But for your vehicle liability and your cargo, your carrier, your employer carries that.
Right.
Okay. So if they're telling you to carry it, it's a big freaking problem right off the rip. If they're not giving you new signage, it's a big problem right off the rip. You mentioned trying to educate your students about escrow. What do you teach them about escrow?
Man, we can go all day about that one. But there's some companies out there, like for one, there's some companies out there that will keep drivers' escrows at the end, So like I've had that happen to a friend of mine. I've actually had that happen to me. I did lease purchase before. back in 2017, 2018. And that actually happened to me. So that right there is one of the biggest things, that I talk to them about and educate them, how to get your escrow, how to get it before you end your deal, your lease or whatnot, because they will hold your escrow hostage.
It's my understanding that the escrow is supposed to be released is it within 15 days of separation or is it 30 days?
15 days. 15 days. Now, you have some companies out there that will do 30 days, but for my information per law, it's 15.
Right. And what a lot of drivers don't understand is that a contract does not override federal law.
Exactly.
So if a contract is being more strict than what federal law is, there's a problem. Exactly. And don't sign that contract.
Exactly. But a lot of them will sign it. And then a lot of them won't fight it because they don't know.
And they what really bothers me is people don't read contracts.
Exactly. When
I was a dispatcher, I will tell you, I've read enough contracts, broker carrier agreements in my time that I know what they basically say. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee I have gone through and in 5 seconds went ahead through a signature on a contract on behalf of my carrier and sent it back without reading the whole thing.
Yeah.
I admit that one because, it was standard boilerplate stuff, right. Particularly if it's like on MCP or RMIS, that's boilerplate.
Yes.
Okay. But if you don't stop and read those contracts, if you don't stop and read specific things in the contracts, like read the back solicitation clause, read any of the indemnity clauses, read any clauses that talk about financial penalties. You need to pay attention to that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad that you actually said indemnity because I did a whole video, a 3-minute video on that because a lot of these drivers out here to do this, they don't even know what that word means. They don't know that it means you're liable. The broker is taking all that stuff off of them and put it on you, or the company is taking all the stuff off them and put it on you. So I really kind of hone in on that word as well too. I put that one on the whiteboard and underline it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, we're not trying to create a bunch of highway attorneys, but people need to know what their rights are. People need to understand the weapons that are being utilized against those who don't know. Okay, forgive the term ignorant, but let's face it, a lot of drivers are ignorant to what it is they really need to understand when it comes to running their company. You may be the best driver out there. You've been driving for 40 years, man. You can run a rig and do loops around Ferraris all day long because you're so damn good. But you can't run a company to save your life because you don't know the laws and the rules that go behind it. And I see way too many videos on YouTube. I call it YouTube University, where a lot of these guys enter the industry thinking they're going to make a ton of money because of all these videos they watched, and they think they know everything about the industry. You don't know jack crap.
Exactly.
Okay. I serve as an expert witness in a courtroom, and there are still things that I'm learning every freaking day.
Right.
It just pisses me off to no freaking end.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the reasons why, I put that.
Uh-oh. I think Shorty's internet must have gone out or something because I just lost him. Hey, Amy, I know you're watching. Throw a comment in there just so you know. I know you can see me. Okay, good. No, thank you for the comment. Appreciate that, guys. As we wait for our guest to get back in, I am going to message him on LinkedIn real quick. There he is. He just came back. Let me get him back up onto the screen. I'm on the wrong tab. There we are.
I'm not sure what happened. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened right there. Forgive me for that.
It's one of the things about doing these shows live.
Yeah.
Okay. What I love about doing live work is you can be candid, completely candid. So everyone sees, the real you. And they do. And then you have little things like this happen. I I remember there was one time I was doing a show out of a conference room at my employer's place. I guess it was a couple months ago, and the Wi-Fi went out.
Mm.
I mean, you want to talk about embarrassing? You're in the middle of a show, you're doing something really important, and then boom, I'm like, I had to go hook up my phone to the laptop, and try to get back on. Thankfully, both my guests were still there, and they were talking amongst themselves as if I had never left. I'm like,
that was a good one. That was a good one right there. But no, what I was gonna say before it cut out was just the simple fact of that's one of the reasons why I put that word indemnify on the whiteboard and underline it, because when a regular civilian commits a crime, what does the judge say? The judge say ignorance is not above the law. So with that being said, yeah, at the same token, like you said, we're not trying to create a bunch of lawyers out there, but also we're trying to get you to know the bare minimum of legal allegation, legal terms, just in case you come across that word in a carrier packet agreement or whatnot, or a lease agreement or whatnot, then you know what to look out for when it comes to these words tied to escrow and things like that.
We mentioned earlier about accountability, particularly when we were backstage before we got started. Mm-hmm. Now, we had this very big, monumental event took place in this industry 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
the Supreme Court made a decision in the Montgomery case, which is strengthening the entire concept of accountability on the broker side, and by extension, shippers, factoring companies, dispatch services, frankly, anyone that touches a motor carrier and has any control over a motor carrier. So I've talked to attorneys, I've talked to dispatchers, I've talked to brokers about this. I have not had the pleasure of talking to carriers. So what do you think? Do you expect to see? What kind of outcome do you expect to see off of this decision that came out?
Well, first of all, this shook up the industry. It just shook up the whole freight industry, number one. Second of all, it's going to be good for the carriers out there that got good CSA scores and know their cost per mile. And it's going to be bad for the ones that got 2, 3, 4 MC numbers out there, AKA chameleon carriers or whatnot. So, I mean, I'm kind of excited to see what it's going to do. As well as I think it's going to start. I think shippers are going to start leveraging brokers as well, because, and I said this a year ago before this even happened, that I always felt that it always starts with the shipper. If we can get the shipper to start cracking down on some of these things, as far as the brokers that aren't playing fair out there, the brokers that are lowballing bids, lowballing truckers and stuff like that, or the brokers out there that will look past low CSA scores just to get that freight moved. If the shippers would get off the bench and really start playing in the game, then I really think this industry could turn around for the best. And right now with the Supreme Court's decision, I really think that's going to happen. I think that's going to start happening, because freight fraud really, if you think about it, it really kind of starts at the top. And who's at the top? You got the shippers, as well as you got the people that are committing the freight fraud. But at the end of the day, who's getting paid off on those docks? When we talk about the tequila load from Guy Fieri that still, they can't find to this day. Yeah, it was some manipulation on the technology side, but as well, at the end of the day, that driver had to be paid off, number one. The dock worker had to be paid off. So if we could really get the shippers to start upping their security, not just within their facilities, but within how they pick brokers, how they leverage brokers, I really think we could really see a turnaround, if you will.
I really hope shippers are watching this. And when I advertise and market shows, I put it in every logistics group I can find. So I really hope there are shippers and 3PLs that are watching this, because there are so many things that shippers and 3PLs can stop on the dock that can save everyone hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, if they are paying attention. The problem I've always encountered in what I do is getting them motivated to do that. I sit there and I look at places like Walmart, Costco, the big box retailers with these massive distribution centers that have 400 doors on the damn thing, and you sit there and you try to tell them, look, you can stop the vast majority of fraud that takes place just by looking at the side of the freaking truck before you load it. Oh, well, we don't have the time. I got to hire 20 freaking people just to be able to do that. Now I don't have the money to do that. Fuck that. We're happy with our process. You give us the valid pickup number, the load's yours. And I'm like,
and that's what shippers are telling you. That's what shippers are telling you from the brokerage side, right?
Oh, it's not just from the brokerage side, but even in the investigations that I do, I hear that all the time.
Wow.
We try to sit there and go to shippers preemptively and say, hey, these are the things that you can do to help prevent your cargo from getting stolen and stuff like that. Work with your broker. Oh, I've got 20 brokers. I just go with the cheapest one. And I'm like, you're an idiot.
That's sad. And that's why I said what the Supreme Court's decision just did was it just made brokers, not just brokers, liable, but shippers. They're going to start leveraging that. They're going to start getting off of their tail and actually going out and doing those type of things that you just discussed. If not,
do you think it's going to be preemptive? Do you think they're preemptively going to do that? Or do you think they're going to wait until they become a victim of a nuclear verdict before they finally start getting wise?
Well, with that, I will say, what does history say? History says they're going to wait till they become a victim. I guarantee you that. It's sad to say, but it's sad. I mean, just like you said, Walmart and Costco. I mean, look at the things that they're doing. Walmart has actually branched out to become their own load board, to get their own load board and brokerage. So, is this going to start coming down to that?
Oh yeah, I'm even though folks like Walmart and Amazon, they've got all the lawyers in the world in house. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to protect them from the decisions that came down from the Supreme Court. And the biggest complication that I see coming out of all this, and I say this no matter where in the industry you sit, you now have 50 different states that are going to set 50 different sets of precedents of how these cases are going to go. And then as these individual sets of precedents are introduced, we're all going to try to figure out which one is the worst. Most likely it's going to be California. And then we're all going to set to that standard. The question is how quickly are people going to adjust? Because I think the winners here among carriers, brokers, factoring companies, etc., the winners are the ones who are already in a position where everything they do is documented, is defensible, time-stamped, all that happy fun stuff. If you are already to that standard in how you evaluate motor carriers, how you evaluate your customers, and I'm going to say you need to evaluate your customers too, brokers, not just your carriers. If you're doing that, I think you're in a fantastic place, regardless of your size. I hear a lot of experts early on sitting there saying, "Oh, the big guys win, the big guys win, the big guys win." Maybe. The big guys are also going to get hit with the bigger verdicts.
Exactly.
Okay? But if you're a small broker and you have all your ducks in a row, you should be able to win out of this. Because there are plenty of shippers out there who value a true business relationship. That's why they're small shippers. Okay. They value a business relationship. They want that relationship, and they prefer to have that relationship with a small broker who understands the meaning of good relationships. So I'm really, really hoping that what we see across the entire industry, no matter what function you are, that we see more of a partnership type of environment instead of an adversarial, hey, I'm a broker, I want 30% margin, I'm going to take every dime I can out of the carrier to get it. This race to the bottom bullshit has to end.
Yeah, I think those days are gone, or are about to be gone, or numbered, if you will. But I was just about to ask you, do you think this will be the end, or coming to the end, of a small brokerage? I mean, I know you just said the relationship things, but when you have, big brokerages out there that are really trying to take every piece of real estate, do you think this might be the end of the small brokerages out there?
It really depends. And I think the answer to that's going to lie in what happens in insurance.
Okay.
Because, as you know, brokers are only required to carry that $75,000 bond.
Surety bond. Yep.
Okay. And that surety bond does not cover any of the liability issues at all. Okay.
Right.
The only thing it covers is when you don't pay a carrier. So now that they are susceptible to these nuclear verdicts, and in some cases thermonuclear verdicts, they have to find a way to better protect themselves. So I expect to see freight brokers get into other insurance products like vehicle liability for themselves to supplement whatever a motor carrier has. And when they do that, what level are they going to carry? You know, your average nuclear verdict is somewhere around $20-25 million. So are they going to carry a $20 million policy? Are they then going to turn around and require the motor carriers they work with now to not only have a $1 million vehicle liability policy, or are they going to require them to have a $5 million policy? Because let's face it.
Yes.
Those limits that were set in law were set a long time ago.
Way before us.
So if we modernize those limits based on inflation, then a motor carrier's vehicle liability is going to wind up being around the 5 million mark.
Yeah.
You know, the question is how much more is that going to cost a motor carrier? How much is it going to cost a freight broker to now add that insurance to their own business? And is that something that's sustainable for them in the long run? If it is, yes, I think small brokerages can survive this. I really do. Is the bigger likelihood that the bigger guys are going to start gobbling people up? Yep, I see large consolidations about to happen.
Yep, that's why I asked you that question, because, you know, as a small brokerage out there, that's, you know, it's kind of hard. You're barely making it, but then you got these big ones that with the Supreme Court's new law, are they going to get swallowed up?
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how this plays out. There are a few state level cases that I'm very specifically watching to kind of get a good litmus as to how this is going to play out. I'm looking at one specifically in Ohio relating to a hot shot. I'm looking at a couple in California right now. I do think California is going to end up setting the standard when this is all said and done. But, you know, these cases are still in the initial discovery phase. They were put to the side waiting on the Supreme Court to make this decision. And now that they have, I'm waiting for brokers to finally get sucked into these cases where they originally weren't going to be sucked in before. So I think that's going to be the biggest upheaval that we're going to see within the industry. I'm waiting for some of the brokers that I have worked with in my fraud prevention work to get called to task and show up in court. And the worst part is, if you're a freight broker or you have some ancillary touch to the freight industry, you're going to go to court.
Oh, for sure.
You will get tapped as a defendant. It will happen. Be prepared for it. Budget for it. Start planning now. Get yourself an attorney. Get them on retainer. So when it happens, you're ready. You know, because it will happen. It may very well be that if you are well positioned, you've got all your documentation, you've properly documented how you vet carriers, you properly documented selection, you've properly documented all your risk assessment and all that good stuff, you're still going to go to court.
Yeah.
But you may be in and out in 15 minutes. Say, okay, here's all my stuff. Boom, date, timestamp. This is everything we knew at the time that the hiring took place. We were not negligent in our hiring. Okay, you're dismissed. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Boom. But you still got to show up, and it's going to cost you money to do it.
Yep.
So
they got the money.
Ready. Well, you know, when I was a dispatcher and a carrier, I would say the same thing. Brokers, you got the money. You got the freaking money. You're pulling down 20-30% margins. You got the freaking money. Now that I'm on the other side of the fence, I'm seeing more. I'm seeing more. I see the costs. I'm seeing the overhead. I'm seeing the amount of money they're spending on tech to do all of the vetting. I mean, holy cow, I priced gen logs for one of my clients earlier this year.
How much was that?
And about $20,000 a month.
Really?
It was unfreaking believable. I even talked to Jen Logs. I guess it was about a year ago. I talked to Jen Logs about getting my own account. That was going to cost me as a dispatcher $2,000 a month.
$2,000 a month, and then the brokers are paying 20 on tech for vetting. Wow, I didn't know that they was out there. I knew that they had because I have a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but I have a couple buddy freight broker friends out there, and they tell me all the stuff, the tech that they have, but they don't tell me the amount of money that the tech costs. And I'm like, good.
It's all scaled. Now, I don't think a lot of carriers understand this. It's scaled depending on what revenue the brokerage makes. Okay. So they'll look at your past year's revenue and then they quote a price.
Okay.
I've seen that scale in so many different directions, and all of them do it, wow. Whether it's RMIS, MCP, highway, and they're all expensive. Yeah. So, and I see how much time my clients are taking screening each one of these, doing demos and whatnot to see what serves them best. And some of the best clients that I've worked with on the brokerage side, I'll be honest, they don't need any of them. Yeah, because the level of detail they go into in their own due diligence exceeds what it is that RMIS, MCP, highway do on their own. But that also leads me to another point that a lot of brokers, when they ask me, hey, what do I need to do to be ready for this decision and whatnot, they look at things like highway and say, okay, if they're good on highway, everything's good. Life's fantastic. Wrong answer.
Yeah, that's scary because it's scary because what you were saying earlier about how there's some of them out there that don't even use it because their vetting process is so good. I mean, it's kind of getting back into the days of Convoy. The Convoy, the tech that Convoy had out there. I still have truck driver buddies that still haven't gotten paid from 2022 from Convoy. So is it getting to the point to where they're starting to spend too much money on tech?
Yeah, that's a real interesting question. And there's a lot of tech out there. And a lot of this tech has only come out in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And what do we have to thank for all this tech? Fraud. Fraud is what really brought all this tech in.
Yeah. Which the bill of Corca, you heard of the bill of Corca? Like, we need to get law enforcement involved.
Yeah, law enforcement, I wish they took cargo theft more seriously. And I think today they are. I've had a lot of interactions with the FBI. The FBI is trying to learn more about it. Forgive the dog in the background. I don't know if you can hear him. I think Amazon's delivering or something. Yeah, I swear if Amazon never delivered anything, I'd have a lot more money in my back. But I mean, I've seen all these new platforms pop up, and on their own, they have good ideas. I like what Highway's doing. I like the idea of linking the ELD. Was I against it when it first started? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of drivers don't think, two things. The first thing I hear drivers talk about is privacy.
Yes.
Okay. They don't want to have to be tracked all the time. Dude, you have $1 million of somebody else's property on your back.
Exactly.
You're trying to tell me they don't have a right to know where their property is at all times?
Exactly. But I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. But it's some of the brokers out there that are just not playing fair. Like there was a freight guard. I actually read a freight guard one time to where the broker actually put a freight guard on this carrier because he was in the shower and he didn't answer the phone in a timely manner. Yes. And actually, to be honest with you, I'll look it up and I'll screenshot it and I'll give it to you later on once we get off of this. But that same one actually took that broker to court, and that broker lost because that was considered harassment. So these are the type of things that truckers feel like, oh man, we don't want to be tracked. At the same token, it has to be some tug and pull. if you got $1 million worth of cargo that's not yours, it's the brokers or the shippers or whatnot, then yes, you got to sign up for tracking. But also, freight brokers have to be fair. They have to give a little trust. You guys, not saying you in general, but freight brokers always, the truckers need to trust us. You truckers need to trust us. Well, I just talked about the convoy situation where the truckers did trust convoy, and convoy scurried out the back door through the middle of the night and left a lot of truckers high and dry and out on pay. So when are you guys going to start giving us some trust this way as well? That's when you come to the negotiation table, it's always some give and pull. It's always. And what we've been met lately with is no give and pull. It's just always give.
And we talked backstage before we got started, and I kind of mentioned I was in a tirade trying to write a post about reputation management. Mm-hmm. And reputation management, I think, has outlived its usefulness. I remember back in the early 2020s when they made sense. If a carrier was double brokering, there was no impersonation. It was easy to sit there and say, okay, I booked it with carrier A. Carrier B showed up for the load. So clearly carrier A double brokered it.
Yeah.
That used to be, that was an appropriate level of evidence to be able to make such an accusation. Today, it's not.
Yeah.
And yet there are still plenty of brokers who will issue freight guards for very serious accusations, despite the fact that the carrier may have had their email compromised. The carrier wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form, had no idea any of this was going on, yet they're the ones who are taking it on the chin and losing their businesses because of these freight guards that are out there. I think freight guards, highway reports, TIAs, watchdog, all of those things, it's time for them to go. If brokers are relying on that as due diligence, stop. They're not always factual. There is no evidence on those reports to justify what it said. It's only the word of one person who, I'm sorry to say, usually had a really bad day and decided to take it out on that particular carrier at that particular time.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've gone to go advocate for a carrier who was an innocent victim. And then when I call the broker, he's like, you know what? I got to tell you, John, I just had a really bad day that day. And you're absolutely right. I'm pulling it down right now.
Yeah.
Dude, why do we have this out there? The biggest problem is you have these brand new brokers. And we're talking about, look at the larger brokerage houses. Where do they get their talent? They usually go to college campuses and recruit some of these kids out of high school and college to come in, say, hey, we're going to pay you a commission. You can make $100,000 a year in your first year and all these things. So these guys will come in. They don't know a damn thing about the industry.
At all.
Yet they get access to a weapon that has the ability to absolutely nuke a 20-year motor carrier off the face of the map.
Yes.
With this thing called a freight guard. And they don't know how to use it responsibly.
Exactly.
At all.
You're right. It's been weaponized. But I tell you, I had a meeting with the freight brokerage in Columbia, South Carolina one time, and they took me behind the scenes. And I got to say, I'm 50-50 on the freight guards, because I'm with you on that, on them being weaponized, but also in the same token, there are some truck drivers out there that need them as well. There's some truck drivers. There's some truck drivers out there that need them as well, and I'm for it a little bit. Like I said, 50-50. But there's also some companies out there that need it, because I became privy to some information that one of the biggest double brokering people out there, companies out there, is Landstar. I didn't know Landstar was double brokering like that.
Well, I'll step in and I'll defend Landstar. Okay. I have no affiliation with Landstar, so I'll get that out there. I've worked several cases with Landstar security team.
Okay.
The double brokering that happens at Landstar is usually being done by some of the newer agents that they have brought on. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now what Landstar's fault is that they bring in these new agents. I think they don't do enough vetting of those agents. And then when those agents come in, then they start double brokering like crazy.
Yeah.
and they can get away with it for a while. And once it's brought up to Landstar Security, Landstar Security has no choice but to act. So, in the 5 or 6 cases that I've worked in the last year, every single one of those agencies were wiped out by Landstar as soon as I brought attention to it.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So,
well, my next question is, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I know. I'm just saying that they're trying to do something about that.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I didn't know that. When I found out when that freight brokerage took me behind the scenes and let me see that, I didn't know that Landstar double brokers that much, and that's why I say some freight guards are needed. But also, I would even go any further and pose the question: do they need to do away with their agent program?
Now, that's a very interesting question. I would love to see the agents brought in as employees, and I think that would fix a lot of the problems. The other thing is co-brokering, and that's something we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
Co-brokering. And this is another thing that a lot of the industry doesn't quite understand, because there are no specific laws or legal definition of co-brokering. Like there's no legal definition of double brokering or illegal brokerage. Okay. The legal term does not exist. But if you're a carrier, you have already experienced this co-brokering thing where a broker partners with another broker to get loads moved. Either the first broker is overwhelmed, they don't have the capacity, so they pass it on to a subsidiary or what have you. Co-brokering is supposed to have a specific structure. And again, this is not rooted in law. So it's rooted in best practices. That structure is supposed to be, there should be a contract between the two brokers. The margin that's identified for the load is to be shared by those two brokers. It shouldn't be broker A gets their cut and then broker B decides however much they want and discounts the price even more when they finally find a carrier and run the price into the ground. There needs to be disclosure. The carrier needs to know, hey, this is a co-brokered load. The original broker is broker X, and I've been asked to co-broker it. In which case, I turn around and say, can I get a copy of the contract? Here's the contract. Thank you very much.
Broker transparency.
It's about trust.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with co-brokering between brokers. Just make sure the driver knows it. Make sure the carrier knows that. If they know it, there's going to be trust.
Yes.
Okay. I can accept that. If the rate's still good for me and it's good for my carrier, okay, I'll work with you on a co-brokered load. That's not a problem. So co-brokering is an issue that Landstar has that I really do not like. I'd love to see co-brokering abolished completely. Yeah. If you do not have the capacity to handle the volume that you're getting from your customers, you need to turn that volume away.
Exactly. 100%. Or not just turn it away, but if you don't want to turn it away, give us broker transparency.
It certainly helps. Now, the market has flipped. It's now a carrier market as opposed to a broker market that we've been experiencing for the last 4 years. Do you think, since we're on the topic of transparency, do you think that transparency is going to come back around? Do you think brokers, are you seeing over the last 6 months that brokers are being more transparent in how they're trying to do business?
Oh, that's a good question right there. And to be honest with you, I'll say no. And I'll say no on both sides, the carrier and, because think about it like this. Before it flipped to a broker's market, the carriers, we weren't saying anything. Then it flipped to a broker's market. Now the carriers, we're saying a lot. We want broker transparency. Now that it flipped back on our behalf, are we still going to want that? Because when I was being a big advocate, and I'm still a big advocate for broker transparency, but when I was being a big advocate and I was going around, because I told you I'm not biased whatsoever. I belong to the truckers and I'm a trucker advocate, but I see our faults as well. So what I mean by that is, I ask carriers, are you willing to open up your book and give the brokers, some transparency on your behalf? How many leases do you have out there? Or how many loan agreements are you taking out, or fuel cards or whatnot? Those are some things that the brokers want. Like I said, every negotiation got to be some give and take. And I was very surprised at the amount of carriers that was like, no, the broker doesn't need to know that. Well, hold on now. You asking a broker to open up their books, why won't you open up yours? And vice versa. So to be honest with you, I really think the broker transparency, and I'm going to be kind of excited to see this and see how this plays out, if you will. But I really think it's going to fade away. I really do, to be honest with you. I think once the money starts flowing again, I think it's going to fade away. And I'm sad to say that, but I'm still going to fight for it. But I think it's going to fade away because both sides are not willing to co-entwine. What do you think?
So, well, we know FMCSA is going to rule at some point in the next few months on the broker transparency issue. At least they're supposed to. They'll probably kick the can down the road another year.
I was just about to say that. They're probably going to push it back.
Because they've done that for the last 3 years in a row,
Exactly.
But are they going to continue to kick the can down the road? I don't know. I think ideally is somewhere in the middle. I don't think it should be that a broker needs to report within 72 hours of load completion what their margin was on a given load and have that out there for the public. I don't think that's a responsible thing to do. What I do think is responsible is for the FMCSA to come back and say, look, this is the law.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the law. If you are asked to by a party to the transaction, to the documents, provide the documents over a given period of time, whether it's 72 hours or whatnot, you're required to provide it. That's the law. And you can't, in your contract, sit there and force a carrier to waive their right to that.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping to see. So that if we get to a position where transparency is needed, because look at, is it Pink Pony?
Pink Cheetah.
Pink Cheetah, thank you. Pink Cheetah, Pink Pony was it's a strip club here in the town that I live in. That's why that got stuck in my head. Pink Cheetah.
Hey, that's why we live.
I see it every time I stop at the Starbucks because it's right across the street from the Starbucks. My wife and I laugh about it every time. Pink Cheetah started something with their suit and with TQL. Yeah. And I think there is merit there because it did expose potential corruption within the TQL infrastructure. Now, a lot of us refuse to work with TQL, myself included, because I don't like how their infrastructure is set up. I do believe they're trying to take advantage of every carrier and every customer that they have.
Yeah.
Okay. I do believe that, but whatever, we live in a capitalist society, it's their right. But when people try to shirk away from the law, now I've got a problem with it. If you're asked to disclose, you should disclose. Okay. Yeah. And oh, by the way, carriers are required to maintain their documentation for 1 to 3 years, depending on what that documentation is too. There are federal laws governing that, which, by the way, a broker can request as part of their due diligence. In fact, it would not surprise me now that in the wake of Montgomery, that brokers are going to be asking for a lot of that information. For example, one of the recommendations I make to my clients today is if a carrier has a history of unsafe driving behavior, request a copy of that report, of the inspection report. Okay. They can do that. And you as a carrier are required to be able to provide that to them. Right. Okay. And then explain to them what you have done to correct that issue. If it's terminate the driver because they were operating unsafely or whatever, you may have to provide records to that tune. But I do think that we are going to see the end of the 15-minute sign-on process that carriers and brokers go through right now. Everything's about speed. Get it done fast, as fast as you possibly can. I used to love when I did a setup package through MCP because I could do the setup package on MCP in under 42 seconds. 42 seconds is my record. I could just blast through that with no problem because it was 5 clicks tops. And life was good. Those days are gone.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. If a broker is onboarding a new carrier for the first time in just 50 seconds, you're missing steps.
Yes.
Okay. Now, MCP, and this is on the broker side, so I'm going to pass a little knowledge here. MCP, Highway, RMIS, they allow brokers to customize the pre-screening process. So when the carrier puts in their MC number or DOT number, or whatever they put in, it runs through the pre-screen algorithm. If it passed the pre-screen algorithm, safety scores are set at a certain level, or whatever bumpers are put into place. If they pass that, a lot of brokers sit there and say, okay, everything's good then. We've vetted this guy. Wrong answer, guys. Wrong answer.
That's too fast. It's too fast. And like you said, it skipped so much steps.
I think the biggest step that I see skipped by most brokers is the insurance. Now, I don't know how often you're asked this by a broker, but I always insist on a new COI with the brokerage as a certificate holder. And not just the first time they onboard, but frankly, every time they take a load.
Oh, now I haven't been asked that every time.
Let me explain why. Okay, because I'm sure there are carriers who are watching this like, you mother, I expect to hear it.
Yeah.
It's about liability. Your COIs are only valid at the date and time that they were published. Because I know as a carrier, I can issue a COI to a broker, and then I can go to my insurance provider and say, I just terminated that driver. Take him off my policy.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay. Okay. I didn't think about that. But I see.
So now there are platforms out there like Mesh VI, who's trying to give real data, real up to the minute data on what's on COI. So as COIs change, a broker can get alerted to those changes, whether it's a new VIN was added to the certificate, a VIN was taken off, a driver was taken off, whatever. It's supposed to provide that level of information, but it all depends on how many insurance agents and insurance providers are participating with Mesh VI to provide that level of information. And not a lot of them are doing that yet, but I do see that as being the next evolution. So it would not surprise me if carriers see brokers constantly asking for updated COIs. And I recommend that to my clients. Get an updated COI on every
load,
single load.
I tell you what, I see the angle that you're going at. And I tell you what, even though carriers will hate this, but it'll cut down on freight fraud. It'll cut down. I see your angle. I see your angle. Every single load, I see it.
Yeah, it's a lot of the employers that I work for. They want to find a low friction way to manage their carriers because they feel if there's too much friction, the carrier doesn't want to work with them anymore.
Yeah.
My counter argument is you make it as hard as possible to get on with you in the first place.
Yeah.
Treat the carriers good and you will have a carrier for life.
For life, yeah.
Okay. Because they'll understand. But you need to educate them. You need to talk to them. You need to make sure there's good communication going on. So the brokers that I have worked with over the course of the last year that I have been coaching, they've gone from a 15-minute onboarding process to almost a full day onboarding process. Everyone wants it to be quick, but you can't do that. If you don't vet these guys right,
exactly,
you become the next victim of a thermonuclear decision.
Exactly. Nuclear verdict. You're right. Man, that's a good angle. I'm gonna have to use that as a talking point, update COI on every load. If you don't mind, I'm gonna use that as a talking point because that's good.
Bring it. This is why I do this. That is why I do the show. I want an open exchange of ideas from all sides across the industry so we can do something good together.
Yeah.
Let's come up with the right best practices. Let's bring the carriers and the brokers together at the same table, bring the insurance company with them, bring the factoring company with them. Let's all sit down and really talk this out. How do we want our industry to function?
Right.
Because the gaps that exist in current tech are the gaps that the scammers are using to insert themselves. And in that fog, people start pointing fingers at each other. You screw this up. No, you screw this up. No, you screw this up. We have to come together and we have to fill these gaps ourselves. Let's face it, the Fed is not going to do it for us.
Right.
You know? So that this is why we do this, man. So I'm glad you're able to get something out of it. I've gotten a lot out of it based on what you're teaching drivers out there today, because drivers are, I'm sorry to say, many of them are ignorant to what it means to run a business, and you're teaching that. You're teaching them that's important stuff. Very first thing I used to ask a new dispatch client was, what was your average cost per mile in the last week?
Oh, I bet you.
Do you know how many people have no freaking clue?
I was about to say, I bet you they couldn't tell you.
Not at all. And then I have to sit there and I have to walk them through. This is how you calculate it. And that introductory call lasts 2 hours because I'm going through and trying to get a feel. How much do you actually know the industry? What do you understand your role is, and how well protected are you from the more predatory aspects of how this business runs?
Right.
And I find myself educating people. Oh, by the way, when I go through that and I have a 2 hour long conversation, I almost guaranteed to have a client.
I was just about to say, you got a friend for life. You got a client for life. I was about to say that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because what it does is it brings that that human entity, if you will. When we talk about, highway and all the vetting tools, this is one of the steps that it does. It takes out. But when you have that phone call and you're educating them, oh, thank you, I didn't know that. Hey, now I trust you a little bit and you trust me a little bit, because now you're like, oh, no, this guy knows what this means because I spent 2 hours on the phone with them telling them what it means. So I know now that, guess what? I can trust this guy a little bit more than when I first met him and they didn't know.
Oh, this has been a lot of fun.
We got to do it.
It's amazing how fast the time flies by. I'm looking at the clock here and I'm seeing we've been on for an hour and 6 minutes already. And I feel like we've only been on for 15 minutes. Right. I told you backstage, once this hits a conversation level, it just flies.
You did. We got to do this again. This is great.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'd love to have you back. And maybe we'll structure it better into specific topics along the way. But we hit some really important stuff. We talked about a good bit about the transparency. We talked about the SCOTUS decision and how that's going to impact the carrier community. We've talked about some of the about leasing programs, which I think is probably one of the biggest fraud entry points on the carrier side that carriers need to watch out for. We've talked about how things need to operate on a dock to help prevent fraud. So I think we hit a lot of great topics. I hope our audience got a lot out of this. How can people find you if they're interested in your content?
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you for granting me this opportunity to be on this platform with you and engage in great conversation. So I truly want to say that first and foremost. Secondly, you can find me on YouTube at CDL Shorty. That is CDL SHORTY. You can find me on Instagram at V as in Victor Jackson 28. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, guys. And I have CDLShortyD4D.com, my own website page as well for, all of your trucking needs, if you will.
Fantastic. I really do appreciate it. I will definitely be having you come back. It has been a blast chatting with you. If you decide to get into podcasting, though, I'd love to come on and help you out too.
Oh, for sure. Let's do it. Hey, now you got a friend for life. You got a friend for life.
I love it. I look forward to it. I'm hoping I can get to go to more of the conferences coming up. Broker Carrier Summit. I was at Matt's last year, but not this year. So I'm sure I'll get the chance to see you. And if nothing else, I'd love to see you out in the wild doing your thing.
Yes, sir.
Be the one holding the camera while you're doing something. I'd love to be able to get that chance.
We got to do it. We got to meet. We got to have lunch one day. We got to do it.
I'm definitely game. Folks, thank you so much for spending your lunch hour talking to us today. Hope you got to learn a little something out of this. Be sure to follow CDL Shorty out there on LinkedIn and YouTube. And stay tuned for next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about automotive shipping. You want to talk about a beast. I really did not know a lot about it until I got into it this past year. And whoa, what a segment of the industry that is. We're going to have Michelle Hutchison talking with us about the fraud that goes on in the automotive side. So it should be real interesting. Be sure to check that out noon next week. In the meantime, folks, your check is on the table. Be sure to tip out your server, and we will catch you next time here at the Tic Toc Diner.